Hello everyone, welcome to Knitting with Sherri. I'm going to show you some tools that I have or that you're going to need for your projects, different tools, and I'm going to explain each one so that you're not confused as how to use them. Okay, first of all, we're going to start with the different types of needles. First, there's the aluminum needles, and these click you'll hear it when you click them together. You can hear a clicking sound. They're very smooth and they're easy to work with. Now they do come in like larger sizes, and these can get really heavy if you are doing a sweater or something. So I'm going to tell you how to prevent that, and by not using them. So then we have sometimes you have plastic or acrylic needles, and these are a double pointed needle. They're not as smooth, and you can even feel it. It's kind of it's just not as smooth. So basically, when you're working with these plastic or acrylic, you want to use them with a slipperier yarn, like mohair or rayon, alpaca, angora, different types like that, and acrylics. So they slide easier on that needle. Then you also have, I don't have the bamboo or wood, but just to let you know, bamboo is a lighter weight, smoother type needle. And its care is required with those because they can get like, you know how wood kind of chips? It's kind of like that with the bamboo, and your yarn can get snagged on that as well as the wood. And the wood is harder to find in the stores, and it's less accurate in sizing. Okay, so not to say you can't use them, because you can. But, okay, so now we're going to talk about the shapes and sizes of them. So first you got your circular needle over here, and you can see there's different sizes in these. I don't know if you can see them all. I have a really big plastic, and then I have an aluminum. They're really big, but they come in all different sizes. So here's a smaller aluminum, and now you can also see you've got your cable. It's a little shorter with the two needles on the side, and then here is, let's see if I can't pull it out of there without knocking everything off. And this one's a little larger, so I don't know if you can see the sizes here together. One's a lot larger. The green one is small, and the blue one is longer, should I say. And you never want the cable to be thicker than your needles, okay? Okay, so working with circular needles, they're very versatile, and they come in sizes 11 to 39 inch long, okay? And so they're usually used with seamless or flat knitting, okay? And so like skirts, sweaters, just straight needle. Like if your yarn, if there's too much on these needles, it would be easier to put it on the circular needle, okay? And it also is less strain on your arms and shoulders when you're trying to knit than these straight needles. But sometimes you need the straight needles, okay? So, and another thing I need to tell you is, if you find that your circular needle is curling too much, and it's kind of hard, and it's just staying curled all the time, to straighten it out and make it more flexible, you can stick it into very hot water for a few minutes, okay? And that will straighten it out and make your cable return to the flexibility that you need, okay? And so then I have some double pointed needles here, and they come in sizes 7 to 12. Excuse me. And they usually are used for knitting tubular things like mittens, socks, hats. But you can also use, for hats, you can use the circular needle as well. But I've knitted socks with these different needles, and they come out very nicely. They come in sets of 4 usually, and various lengths, okay? So I guess next we're going to talk about the single pointed needle, which is right here. And we have several different sizes. Okay, so basically you're going to see a knob at one end, and the knobs usually will tell you that, like, it says 5 US 3.75 millimeter. So it's going to have the size, and on the flat ones, you're going to see the size of the tip on the top here. And they come in, as you can see, various lengths and sizes. You see these huge, big ones, and they come, some are, let me see, hold on. They come in different sizes and lengths. I can't seem to get it all in there at once. Let's see. Okay. And so, and they're all pretty smooth and easy to work with. And so the next thing, let's talk about the stitch holders, okay? Now, the stitch holders right here, I'm going to show you. Basically, a stitch holder holds stitches, like when you're going along knitting and it says to put some stitches on the stitch holder, then these are what they're talking about, okay? And so when you're instructed to slip these group of stitches onto the stitch holder, you always want to slip as to purl, so that your stitches don't get twisted, okay? But there's different sizes, as you can see here, okay? And just so you can see that. And then what you're going to need next is a point protectors, and these go onto your needles, and they can go on the single needle, or they can go onto your they go on different size needles, see, and they stay on there pretty snug. So like if you lay your work down, or if you don't want stitches falling off, then they go on a lot of different sizes, and they have different ones than these, and they can even go on the single pointed needles or your circular needles. Here's a single needle, and they can go on that. And then they go on the circular needle as well. Right here. See, there's a circular needle with the cable. So you have that. So rarely the cable, usually your work will sit down on the cable, and so it really doesn't fall off. But if you are worried about it, you can stick two on either end. So when you set it down, or if there's too many stitches, and you're afraid they're going to fall off, different things like that. So those are needle, the point of the needle point things, point protector, sorry. And then you have your row counter, and basically this one is not automatic. They do have others at the store, and some other actually, they have a wrist one that's really nice, and I need to get me one, but haven't yet. But what this does is it turns and keeps track of your stitches on both sides, okay? And while you're going along and it sits down, then you pick it up when you finish a row and you put the next one in, okay? And that's what you call a row counter, okay? Now you have what you call a cable needle, okay? This cable needle is when you do work, cable work, which is, you'll learn that, but it's when you're knitting and you're going to make a cable in your, like, let's say you were doing a sweater, and you can use this cable needle, okay? All right, we have markers, and markers, they're usually slipped from when you're doing your work, and it says you need to, it indicates change in pattern. So when you do it, let me show you kind of on this with the needles here. You're going to slip it in where it says to mark your change, and then you're going, every time you knit back and forth, you're going to, switch it back and forth. And these are markers, and here's some more different kind of markers, okay? And so they come in different varieties, okay? You're also going to need a needle. It's a yarn needle. And you may want a pointy one, you know, a sharp one, or a dull one, okay? So you probably want both, okay? And I also have here some crochet hooks, and sometimes when mistakes occur in your work, you might need to pick up a stitch or anything. Different size crochet hooks are really good to have, or one crochet hook, in case those mistakes happen. Okay, here we have a bobbin, and what a bobbin is used for is usually in color knitting, and you're going to wind a small amount of yarn on that, and when you wind that yarn on, this is what they call the bobbin. It's going to be wound on there for coloring changes. Okay, so now we have our gauge ruler, and gauge rulers are to check your gauge, and that's usually on every pattern you do. You'll know this. You have to knit a 4x4 gauge, and then this is something that you're going to use to see if your gauge is correct. And then this right here, these holes are used to size your material. And so I'm going to use this one because it's hard for you to read the numbers here. But as you can see, each row has millimeters, and it has US numbers, 1 through 15 there. Okay, and then you have the ruler here and here, and you do your swatch or your gauge, and on your, every time they tell you when you start a sweater, you always want to do a gauge first, and this is how you'll measure how many stitches and rows you have. And we'll do that in another lesson, but right now we're just going to show you how to measure the needles. Okay, so I'm going to take some double pointed needles and kind of show you. Let's find out what size these needles are. So we're going to use our knitting gauge, okay? So we're going to stick it in 3, it don't fit. We're going to stick it in 4. As you can see, it's not going through. 5, still not going through. Is it going to go through? And I'm using millimeters here, but I should be using this down here. You could do either, but if it's in the 9 all the way through, you want it to at least go halfway through, so you know it's going to take the whole needle. 8, it doesn't go into, so you know it'll be 9 US, and it's 5.5 millimeters, okay, or 5.25 millimeters. Okay, so let's try a different size needle. Let's go with this one. All right, you see that's too big, so we're going to start down here. It won't go in 1, as you can see. Will it go in 2 3/4 or 2? No. 3, it goes in perfect. Okay, so it's size 3 needle. Here's another one that's smaller. It goes into 1, but will it go into 0? Yes, it will. So this is a size 0 in US millimeter 2. Okay. Okay, we're going to try a big single pointed needle, and we're going to use it in the, let's see, we're going to go with an 11. It fits perfectly in the 11. Can you see that? And then let's try the 10. It don't go in the 10 at all, so we know it's 11 because you wouldn't go up a size. You want to go to the next size. If it don't fit in that 10, you'll fit 11. Okay. All right, so let's do a circular needle, I'm sorry, and see about that. Okay. Circular needles are just like single or double pointed needles. So we're going to put it in 2. No, we're using the US here. Whoops, can you not see that? I'm sorry, my big hand's in the way. All right, 2. It won't fit in 2. Okay. And let's see if it'll fit in 1. It won't fit in 1 or 2. So how about 3? No. 4? Nope. 5. And it went perfectly into 5. Okay, 4 and 5. Okay. So that cable needle's a size 4. Okay. So then on the, there's some more, not too much more. You're going to need yarn, of course, and you're going to need some scissors, and you're also going to need paper and pen. Okay, there's some other things you're going to need as well. Excuse me, and that will be like safety pins and crochet hook. Well, we already did the crochet hook, and a yarn threader might be good, and some blocking pins or T-pins if you prefer. And so I hope I covered all the materials that you're going to need. And a measuring tape is also another thing that might be good. I don't know if I mentioned that. And so these are some things that you'll need to purchase. You don't have to purchase like a pile of them. Like I've accumulated these over time. Okay. And that's just from my own interest in it. But I wouldn't run out and just go purchase all this at one time. It's a lot of money. So what I would do is I might do 2 different sizes in the circular. I might do 1 set or 2, depending on if you enjoy doing it off the single. I used to do it only on the single pointed needle, but now I do most of my work on the circular because I just enjoy that so much more. And when I do socks or mittens, hats, I will use my double pointed needles. They work really good. I do have several sets of those, but again, unless your project calls for it, I wouldn't run out and buy a whole bunch. You want at least 1 bobbin. I have 3 gauge rulers, and you don't need 3. You only need 1 good one. I just happen to accumulate those over time. You want to get your point protectors. You definitely want to get a needle, not a needle, I'm sorry, a row counter. And you want to get some markers. And you don't have to get this kind and this kind. You can get whatever kind you want. You want also some, now this you do want. You want to definitely get some of these stitch holders. And you want 1 or 2 cable needles. You want to get 1 or 2 crochet hooks. And you definitely want to get a dull pointed needle. There's a yarn needle. And you at least want 1. It can be plastic or it can be that kind that I showed you. And you definitely need yarn. And everybody's got pen and paper and a measuring tape, hopefully. And scissors. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it and some comments. And I will see you next time.